Okay, so it's already 5:35. Let's start with the session. So good evening, everyone. I welcome you all again to this platform. Before I proceed, I'm really thankful to my RFI family, especially Saurabh Jain sir and Ajay Jain sir, for providing all of us, and especially me, this opportunity to meet and interact with you through this platform. And as I always keep telling you that I feel very happy when such programs happen because one, I get a chance to interact with all my colleagues all around the country, and this is a rare opportunity which wherein someone gets an opportunity to meet so many people from around the country at one place, though it may be virtually, but we do keep so. And every time I feel enriched with ideas and things that come from you people, so I also feel enriched on that thing. So again, as I keep telling in all my sessions, that at any given point of time, if you have got any query or if you want to say um, raise any point, if you have got any question, or if you want to share some of your experiences, please raise your hand and you can, share that. So that would be a simple and great thing to do. Uh, Plus, I would try and keep it interactive, so you can always, interact. I would be putting forward to certain questions to you, so that you can we can interact on a regular basis, so that it does not appear to be a monologue. Monologues are generally boring. This thing. Third idea is that I share my experiences based on being a research guide or being what should I say, um, whatever little experience being a reviewer, being on the editorial board of journals, whatever little experience of uh, research that I have got, I would like to share that thing based on that. Okay, so I hope that it should and it may benefit to you all. So with this hope, let me start. Let me ask you the first question: who all are here who have got who are pursuing their PhD? I'm sorry that day also some people told me. So who all are here who are pursuing their PhD?
So now
Academic.
I'm pursuing my PhD.
Okay, now Deep man. Okay, Devashish Das sir has raised his hand. Great. So two scholars. In any more scholars are here? Any more PhD scholars? Okay, okay, great. I have got two hand raised. Or at least, if I'm not wrong, at least you would be planning for your PhD. If you're not, maybe pursuing your PhD as of now, you may be planning your PhD. Okay, Shubham Patel sir says he's preparing for his PhD. Great. Okay, Ashwini Saab says that okay, you're planning for PhD. Great. Okay, great. So if you're planning or your PhD, or if you're doing pursuing your PhD in either of the cases, or if you're even if you are not planning or doing a PhD, at least you would be doing some research at some point of time at some place. You would be doing some research. This will be connected. This may be like more of like you may be doing some research in terms of maybe a research paper or anything like that. So irrespective, as I keep telling, that PhDs are, a bigger research work areas. Even if you are doing on a smaller scale, you are writing a research paper. So I would try and adjust this scale of my talk from a research paper to a PhD. Now, before I start with my topic of the day, I would like you to make a note of, this thing. Please look into your chat box. I'd like you to make a note of this point, mental map of research. Okay. This would be very helpful to you, irrespective of the level of research that you are engaged with. Okay. Obviously, the size of mental map or the clarity in the mental map would be different if I'm trying to draw it for a PhD or if I'm trying to draw it for a research level. Now, this is my point where I would, start with today's topic of design. Okay. So let's understand this. Can anyone give me some topic of uh, his or her interest? May not be necessarily a PhD topic, may or may not be your PhD topic. In any general research, okay, payment gateways. Great. So I would take this example of payment gateways. Okay. Now, say for example, I chose this idea of payment gateways. Okay. The first thing that I need to decide upon, I'm not talking about the topic. Please understand this thing. I'm not talking about that how to choose your topic. No, that is out of my purview. The scope of today's discussion. I'm pretty sure all my learned colleagues who have spoken to you would have spoken how to choose a topic. So I'm not getting into that thing. So you say payment gateways. Great. Let's boil down to this idea that what in payment gateways that I would like to study. So you may come up with this idea that would it be more of say the finance idea that I would be talking? Would it be more from a technological perspective that I would be talking? Would it from a consumer perspective that I would be talking? Would it be from a vendor perspective that I would be talking? Acceptability of vendor thing from payment gateways. Would it be something that I would be liking? I'm liking to study a pre and post type of COVID. I would be talking this during my research design. So would it be liking that I would be talking inside, say, for example, pre and post COVID changes in payment gateway? So I would be drawing a data of, say, last 7 years or 5 years or something like that. Now, what exactly I would be, which area is that I would be trying to look into payment gateways? That is your question number one. Once you have started thinking that your research area is payment gateway. When I say research area, please don't let me clarify it again. Research area can be your research topic, it can be your PhD topic, and both are research areas. Okay. As I told you, I repeat it again. The level of doing research, the objectives that you would include in the research would differ based on which, what level are you writing? You are writing a research paper, you're writing a research topic. Okay, you're writing, research, you're doing your PhD in that topic. So, say for example, let's boil down to one thing that I would be talking. Navdeep ma'am, okay, let me take another example from you. Which area would you like me to take? I've given you all these areas relating to payment gateway. So we'll be talking about payment gateways, consumer perspective, technological perspective, the finance perspective, the vendor perspective, or in general, you would try to understand, the exact user perception. Great, great. That means, you would be talking more about the consumer perspective. Okay. So once I've got onto that idea, consumer perspective, now what is that I would like to look into consumer perspective? That would be my second question. Okay, if I've say frozen this idea, okay, that I would be talking consumer perspective, then what is that exactly I would like to look in from a consumer's end? So you are saying user perception. Now, what is that user perception would mean? Let me take a deep dive. Okay. So take a deep dive and look into that. Think what would that user perspective of perception means. Am I trying to evaluate that say which payment gateway user uses it mostly and why do they use it? So I would through that I would be trying to know that what are the good features in say in as compared if I draw a comparison between this thing, or I would try and look into a general thing that, how about an e-money type of thing, that means payment gateway. Let me put it very simply. I'm not getting into the technical part of it. So payment gateway versus a physical type of thing, ease of use type of thing. So what is that I would be trying to look into? Say for example, now you said that okay, you would be looking into say comparison of different gateways, and through that comparison, you would be trying to understand that okay, what are the platforms which are available, and what all you would be looking into that thing. Okay, so you would be trying to look into many ideas that why do user use a certain platform, why a certain platform is not put to use, all things put together. Okay, once you're done the next step, then look for that thing that say, okay, this is what you are trying to measure. Now whom you would try to look in for this thing? Okay, which consumer, which set of consumers are you trying to look in? Are you trying to look in gender perspective? Are you trying to look in a age criteria? Are you trying to look it from an occupational criteria? Are you trying to look it from an income criteria? Based on this different, or you're trying to look in mix ideas. Okay. So based on this thing, that would be the step number 2 of how you would like to go about it. Okay. Then say about step number 3. Okay, I hope I'm trying to make my point clear to you. We started with one idea. I'm not saying topic. Please do not, get me wrong. We started with one idea, and now we are trying to, expand that idea. So say that, for example, I want to look it from a gender and income perspective. Say, for example, just trying to explain that. Now, what is that? What is now? We'll try and draw some, say, from previous studies. I would try and draw some ideas onto that thing, that how you would, how things would differ when it comes to certain ideas. Okay, what all parameters should I take in comparison? So then, what is that? Say, for example, I'm writing a research paper. So I have fixed as soon as my two ideas are fixed, that I would be talking gender, and I would be talking, I would be comparing multiple, say, gateways which are available. So this becomes my larger research objectives. I'm not talking about framing research objectives or nothing like that. This talks about, and this becomes my two larger objectives of the study. So next, I would like to look into then what is that largely I would be talking into that. Okay, what is that larger idea that I would be doing for? So, and what are the likely conclusions that we can come up with? Like, okay, what are the larger conclusions, or largely the conclusion that I can come up with? Like, so right from a so-called interest area to us, trying to draw a larger conclusion. This entire journey, I am trying to get clarity on this entire journey, trying to understand. I started with payment gateways. Okay. And now I'm talking about conclusion. And it took us maybe around 7-10 minutes. Okay. So this is a smaller idea to make you understand that. Try and draw a mental map. What I had written in the chat, try and draw a mental map of the research work. From, try and look into larger pieces of how things are. Devashish Das, sir, you have raised your hand.
No, sir, it was raised earlier. I will bring it down. Sorry.
Okay. Thank you. So, that's how you would be largely looking on from a so-called topic to almost, you are trying to draw threads of, see, in research, what the problem is. If you're doing a PhD, this becomes more complex. If you're doing a research work, it's still, things are still under a control. You need to understand that what would be the scope of my research. And that is why mental map or drawing a clarity on your research becomes essential. That if you can talk about this clarity, that what is that I would be trying to look in from my research, the scope, largely your scope of research, geographical areas and other delimiting variables, what you call them, that can always be a part of your mental map. And once you have drawn this mental map, your framing of topic would become easy. So try and do it the reverse order, rather than following the other side of the picture, that you try and frame the topic. If you have got that level of clarity, then try to draw the topic first, and then try and dig into it. But my point would be that look into the idea first and then try and draw a topic on that. Okay. So either ways, the more you are comfortable with, if you are most of the people, when they start with PhD work, they don't have that clarity. And it's I would not say it's, it's something, I should say it's something wrong that you expect that level of clarity from a PhD scholar who might have just entered into research. Okay, all of us, even if I can see some of my fellow PhD holders sitting over here, I believe there are some. Yes, let me check the participant list. Mm, yes, I see few names as who have been awarded their PhDs. So even if you are awarded your PhD, okay, so things are clear now. But think about that those times when we got into our PhDs. Okay, were we speaking with the same clarity? No. Okay, so hence, please don't expect this clarity coming on, and please, all if you the people who are listening to me are guides also. Please make it a point that you are trying to help your scholars get onto that mental level of clarity by drawing such mental maps. Believe me, do it, and you would find it amazing. Pen paper, it's okay. If you can keep it in mind, it's okay. The format is your. The format choice is your. I don't have any format for drawing a mental map. No. Okay. Anything that can give you a clarity, think before you leap type of things. You should know the depth where you are trying to, take a dive. Don't dive in before you actually don't know, if you don't know the depth. See, that is what happens in most of the PhDs, especially in most of the PhD, that you take a dive onto it, and then later on you find that, things are getting actually out of your hand. The so-called variables that you decided, the technicalities of independent and dependent variables and all those things that you decided are, now are getting slipped out of your hand. I do remember examples of my colleagues who had so clarity after they got, before they got registered for PhD, they had so good clarity of what exactly they want to research upon, and almost, it was like that they have done a quarter of their PhD before they were even registered for it. Forget about registration and the time lapse between registration to your presentation. No, even before they registered for PhD, they had that this clarity that this is what exactly, these are the larger things that I would be doing. So try and draw, make it a habit, please, that before you actually get into any type of research, PhDs or a research work also, try and draw that clarity, because it is, you must be knowing that what is that you are trying to look in the sea. You cannot, just jump in the sea with no idea that what is that you are trying to look in, with a topic in your hand and you are jumping in the sea of research. Please don't do that. Okay. But sooner or later it would wither away. Sooner or later, it would be gone. So don't do this. Hence, it's my sincere request that please, practice mental maps. Am I clear on this idea of mental maps? Any question before I formally start with the next part, research design? Any question anyone would like to ask as far as the mental maps is concerned? Fair enough. So I believe that, no news is a good news. So no question means that things are already settled, or things are either, have bounced far back. So I take it more in a positive sense. Okay. Okay. So let me, formally start with, uh, mm, I'm really sorry. There is again that technical thingy. Please give me a minute. Please bear with for me this technical glitch. Something. Okay, I believe that I have to rejoin. So please allow me a minute. Finally, it is here. Thank you. Okay, so this is before I start again, no, anyone who would like to ask me anything as far as the mental map is concerned, I believe no. Okay, so let's start with that. So obviously, you understand this thing that before you actually design anything or before you actually start with anything, you need to have a design. You need to have a plan in mind. That's what I was talking about, the mental map. See, you can always work technicalities. Okay, please understand this thing. When an architect draws a plan for you, he would draw a larger plan for you. You know, small things can always be worked out. Okay, that which switches to be used, which quality of cement to be used, and things like that. You know, those gaps can be always fitted in. Okay, so that is the next level of plan. But at the first level, you need a drawing, a layout type of thing. So that is what a mental map would do for you. It would get you a mental, a drawing done. Okay. Once you are done with that, then obviously the next step can always be in your next step can always follow types. Okay. So that's where research design comes in. And once you are done with your mental map, research design would help you understand that, okay, now you would be getting into this technicalities. Okay, how I'm going to collect data? What would be, uh, what would be the larger objectives that I would be looking, things like that. So they would always, fall in place. These are the different types of research design that we'll be explaining. I will be talking to you one by one. Descriptive. Usually, social science researchers are more descriptive in nature. When I say descriptive, the simplest idea is that you are trying to describe a certain situation which is already existent. Okay, like say you are talking about that. Say with the example that Navdeep man gave to us, that how many people are actually using, say, for example, how many people are using uh, the online platform, okay, the payment gateways. So how many people are actually using, or which payment gateways are more preferred type. So you can always, get into those ideas. Okay. So that is what something, this is all a part of descriptive research. So you're trying to describe the situation that is existent. So generally, as I told you, generally social sciences research are mostly under descriptive regime. So you can either compare things between, as we were talking about, we talked about this thing that gender-based research, you can draw it on an occupational research, any demographic part you can choose for describing the thing. Or you can talk about any type of relationships, okay, that, this would lead to B. Is it true or not? Types, something like that. So then under descriptive research, you can do these three types of further things. Remember, I was talking to you about when we met in the last discussion. I was talking to you about this idea of that approval and consent. I hope if you remember from my last presentation when I talked about plagiarism issues. So if you remember that thing, so I told you that it's very important that the participants in research are clear with your idea. Don't just try to give them a so-called standard disclaimer that this all would be used for academic purpose and there is no other purpose of using this research and things like that. Okay, please. That is one part of the entire story. So the idea is that if you're using a case study design, that means you are trying to get more into a certain individual group of individual or an ethnic group or a company and something like this, and you are trying to you can get on to You're trying to study on something which is very peculiar. Okay. And since it is very peculiar and it would be an in-depth type of thing, so hence it becomes essential that you are clear with the person that this can be printed, this can be, this would be submitted. Do you want me to get on to, the actual name, or maybe using an ABC name types? That is alias or some dummy name types. Okay, some alphanumeric names types. So either we are talking about that thing, or you want me to, it would be okay that if I use it this way. Okay, and then please obtain um, a written permission from that organization or from that thing. See, till you are using data which is available in public domain, there is no harm in that. Okay, because you and me both would be knowing the same data. So say for example, you are trying to write that why a certain organization did not do well, why it failed. It's okay. Till and until you are using public domain data, so that is available right to anyone and everyone. So you're not writing any categorical information about that organization. But at any given point of time, if you have got an access to any type of an information, say you are interviewing people over there, or taken a data. Say if you want to get it published in any of the good journals or any Ivy League journals, or say for example in Harvard, this thing. So you would need to have exhibits. So those exhibits based on again your case study would be different. So, but then you would be, you would be using organizational data. So hence you need to have an explicit permission from case study. The only idea or the only limitation as far as the case study is concerned is that generalization of, or what you call in technical research terms, external validity. So generalization is something which is generability is limited. That so the generalization is certainly limited in terms of a case study. Point number one. Point number two is that you know I talked about, remember conflict of interest. I talked about that if you are using your friend's company types to collect the data. So that idea would be something that you need to be very sure about, that there is no conflict of interest and you are not trying to fabricate or falsify any data. I told you that, remember some terms that I will be using again. So that is something which a case study design are prone to. Usually writing a research paper with a case study design is okay. It's my strong request to everyone that please don't attempt a PhD with a case study design. Though I have seen the least of the case study design PhDs, but still, it's my open request to everyone. Don't ever think about getting into a case study design based PhDs. Okay, it would be a severe question mark on your research work, on your entire research. So please don't do that. And remember this thing also. Most of us would end up doing only one PhD in their entire life. Okay, so D-8 is something that hardly people would attempt. What you can do is that you can attempt a cross-sectional where you are trying to compare between stratified group. Okay, what are stratified groups? I've used that on slides.
जहाँ फिर है
What are stratified groups?
सेंसिबल है मतलब तंग नहीं करती खलेरा नहीं पाती होर की चाहिए यार सानू इदां दी तां चाहिए
I'm sorry, someone has wrongly opened up. The mic is left open. If you can please RFI, your intervention is needed. योगेश जी आप हैं यहाँ पर? Please mute everyone. योगेश जी आप हैं यहाँ पर?
कोई बात नहीं
गुरदीप कौर मैम, If you can, Gurdeep, ma'am, Gurpreet, sorry, Gurpreet Kaur, ma'am, if you can please, Gurpreet, ma'am, if you can please mute yourself. Gurpreet, ma'am, if you can please mute yourself.
आज मैं 2 लेक्चर ले उसके बाद मैंने कहा लगे बस मेरा भी
Gurpreet, ma'am, if you can please mute yourself, please.
पढ़ाई से पढ़ाई
Thank you, Gurpreet, ma'am. So, that's what it happens that, if you're trying to compare between, so I was asking you that what are the stratified group? Anyone? Anyone with an idea that what are stratified groups? Okay, not an issue. So, stratified groups are homogeneous in nature. Okay, like say, I'm talking about, I give a simplest example to understand. Say I'm talking about an age group. Okay, so today, if I talk about an age group, all of us, okay, all 40, 45 participants which are present, can belong to only one age group at any given point of time. You cannot be in two age groups. So you can be on one age group. If I talk about an occupation, if I talk about, say, for example, an occupation can be multiple. Say income class, if I talk about, say, more specifically gender. So at any given point of time, you would be belonging to only one gender. Okay, so that's what my point is, that if you can you can be a part of exclusive group, that is what makes that exclusive group as stratified group. Am I clear on this? So that either you can be in class 10th, or you can be in class 12th, or you can be a graduate person, or you can be a postgraduate person, something like this. That in one given point of time you can be placed in one group, exclusive group. That is where stratification of group comes in. Am I clear on this? That is where a stratified group. So, say for example, you are trying to draw a comparison between genders. We were talking about, Navdeep ma'am had given this idea. So, say for example, you are trying to talk about that how payment gateways would be, different, or payment gateway preference would be different in terms of different genders. Okay, so a gender-based comparison. The good idea would be that I give you an example. If you might have listened to me, that say for example, I'm trying to draw that thing, that a comparison between pre and post COVID, say comparison between payment gateways. Okay, that how pre and post COVID usage or consumption of payment gateways have changed during all this. Say I'm choosing a time of 5 years pre-COVID, or 4 years pre-COVID, 4 years post-COVID, something like that. So that would be a longitudinal study. Now, longitudinal studies generally would give you a better idea rather than simply comparing. Provided if you want to know that how this variable has changed or behaved over a period of time, if that is what it is, that how a variable has changed or behaved at a point of time, or how this variable has changed, say how it has, say, shopping preferences, or say online versus offline shopping preferences, so how it has changed over a period of time. So if you want to design something like that, or if your objective says something like that, then a longitudinal study would be preferred rather than a cross sectional. Okay, but okay, my idea is only that okay, I just want to learn that whether people prefer a online or an offline medium of shopping, then I can simply go with a cross sectional studies. Okay. At times, your questionnaire, so-called questionnaire, may not carry, catch up everything. Okay. So what you need to do is the idea that you need to understand that there can be an idea wherein you are trying to go and interview your respondents. Obviously, it's a time taking thing, but you are trying to understand what is there in the brain. You are loosely structured an interview or a semi structured type of an interview, and you are trying to understand that how things go. Okay. You're asking those many of whys, hows, things like that. So, you have got that thing. Recently, one of my colleagues completed her PhD onto post-maternal behavior of a woman, and she interviewed the females who child is say up to 2 years of age, and she interviewed that, and probably the interview would last for an hour or 1.5 hour type of time. So that type of an in-depth interviews. Obviously, you understand that one finding a subject to talk is not that easy. See, everyone is busy without work. Okay, even if they are not doing, they may not have a time for your research interest. You may receive questionnaires on groups and everything, but it's not essential that you may be ready to respond to all such questionnaires. Okay, so even if I call you up and say that, okay, can I get half an hour of yours, or can I get 15 minutes of yours? I have got, I want to collect some data. People would be quite reluctant. Okay, so please understand this thing. That getting people agreeing on to some interviews or something like that would be a question mark. The second better question mark, which I realized of all these years, is this idea that see, when people answer things, their ideal mode is always on. Okay, you want to answer it in a practical way. I hope you are getting. Let me ask you a question, a simple, very simple question. I believe all of you who are listening to me as of now, most of, at least, if not all of you, most of you are teachers, yes?
Mama. Yes, sir.
Okay, great. So,
Yes, sir.
okay, great. Thank you for your response. Say, for example, if I ask you that um, you are teaching a simple topic, okay? Let me give you an example. I'm getting out of the thing, and then I would come back and relate to what it is. What is 10 upon 50? In simplest term, what is 10 upon 50? Shall I repeat my question? Okay, let me write it in chat box. So I'm asking you 10 divided by 50. What would be the simplest answer of this? If I'm not wrong, the simplest answer will be this. Agreed? Do you agree with this? The simplest answer would be 1 upon 5.
Yes.
Great.
0.2.
Agreed? Anyone who wants to, ठीक है. Technically it would be 0.2. My point was that simplest answer would be 1.5. Agreed?
Yes.
Great. Now, let me ask you another question. What would be the answer to this? Now, before you make any calculation, I would say that this would be the answer. Do you agree? Do you agree with this? (25 by 55) can be reduced to 2 by 5, na? Yes or no? Yes or no? I'm asking a very simple mathematics thing. Please interact. Okay, I believe. Okay, so shall I continue then? If if you feel that it's something is stopping you from interacting, so shall I continue it on a monologue then? My point is simple, Patel sir. You said 10 by 50 is equal to 1 by 5. Agreed? You agree with this idea?
Yes, sir.
Okay, great. Then what is your logic? 10 by 50 is 1 by 5, because you would say that the 0 to 0 would be cancelled. So with the same logic, I am doing this. 5 and
Then
5.
it's okay. Then it's okay if the same method is applied.
Okay, I hope you're getting my point. But mathematically, is it correct? The answer
No,
is no.
no. Mathematically, it is not correct.
Now you got my point. This question, an MBA student, while he was asking type of things, so he talked about this idea that if this is correct, what you say is 10 by 50. Okay, if this is correct, then this is also correct. What is harm in that? Okay, so that's what the problem is. At certain point, while you are interviewing people, you are trying to understand them. It may be question mark as to how you would take care of their understanding. Okay, you understand that mathematically it is not correct. 10 by 0 to 0 cancer, and at times you may be so frustrated on this thing. Chital ma'am, if your mic is accidentally left open, please. Thank you. So at times you might get frustrated that this is a simple basic maths question. The 10 by 5. Okay, 0 to 0 cancel, so it could be 10 by 5. So his question was, why can't I cancel 5 on 5? So why it should not be 25 by 55, 0, 5 and 5 cancel. So at times people are motivated by their own ideas in life. I won't use the word biasness, no. But at times you need to look in from their perspective. I'm not trying to tell you about 6 or 9 type of an ideology. No. Okay, that from your end it is 6, from my end that is 9. That is not the idea. At times, while you talk to people, try and get on to this thing that how their limitations of not trying to look into things, or their limitations to frame things, would reflect in their answers also. Okay, that is what my point is. So that's the reason I would suggest that talk to people. Once you talk to people, your respondents, everything a questionnaire cannot capture. So once you understand this thing, that that people have got their own mental frameworks, and again I'm refraining from using any word of biasness or idiosyncrasies. That's a different idea altogether. I'm not talking about that. That how you are driven ideologically. No, but in general also people have their mental blockages. So while you question people, try and understand this thing that you may be an avid researcher. Great. I am not. Okay. So people write over there that this questionnaire was, self-administered questionnaire. I used the self-administered. But I seriously doubt on this thing, but that during a pilot study, do you actually test that this questionnaire was self-administered? Please do test that also. For any research, please do test that if you before you write a standard line that the primary data was collected through a self-administered question. Please understand this thing that people have their own limitations. When you ask them one to one, they would have limitations. So how would they answer it thoroughly in a written question? Okay. Remember, I told to you that since you are a non-native type of a thing, okay. So forget about that problem that you are converting the questionnaire into a native language. So that's a different idea altogether. But at times people have their own limitations of understanding. So, so this is what we have discussed so far: descriptive research, case, cross-sectional, and qualitative research. Any questions on this before I move to the next part of design? As I told you, quickly summing up, as I told you, mostly, you're trying to describe the situation. Generally, it would be, more of social science research that you would be trying to describe a situation. Okay. So if no questions, shall I move ahead then? With this presumption that there are no queries, there, things are clear to you. So, okay, this I move to the next idea, exploratory. There can be things which are done, which are, yet to be known. Okay. So don't feel that, you have researched COVID enough. No. What has been the aftermath of COVID on people, on economies, on, what type of trajectories economic growth has seen, or how medically, what can be the impacts that, with the passage of time, there would be hundreds and hundreds of studies based again on our research interest. There would be hundreds and hundreds of studies that would come up, that would be exploring. Even I know, if you are, if you come with a basic science background, okay, then you would, uh, I keep reading many scientific researches which try and challenge most of, the so-called type of uh, everyday science types. Okay, the everyday science rule type. Mostly in terms of diet, mostly in terms of what you should eat, what you should not eat. Is this good for heart? Is this not good for heart? So everyday science type of researchers are still, you still carry on with that. So forget about those phenomena which are still, you're still exploring many things. So, still you have got a certain part which is explored, but still, some part is still left unexplored or untouched. So you're trying to, chart into that unexplored type of territory. That is where exploratory researchers would come in. The only idea is that you would have a smaller sample. Okay. If that is not a widespread type of a problem, then you would have a smaller sample. The smaller the sample, the bigger is the question mark that is that is put on your research. Always remember this thing. So when we talk about sample size in the next part, in the last part of my presentation, I will be talking about this sample size. And remember this thing, that how smaller samples can be a problem for you. Okay. Something that you want to experiment. Okay. Something that you want to experiment on this thing, that, say, for example, um, if the subject is supplied with part, say for example, how much does money impacts motivation. See, the simplest theory, that we have been reading for ages now. So you say that, okay, you studied certain people who had a pay rise, their level of motivation, and people who have do not may not have a pay rise. Okay, so test group, control group types. Okay, so once you compare between the two, so that would, prove that, okay, based on this variable, that this variable actually casted an impact. Okay. Say for example, I give you another example. You may use it as a research part also. Say, for example, that if you come from an engineering background or any of such so-called professional education background, I'm sure placements would happen in your colleges or in the courses. If you come from a university which runs professional courses, a group of institutions, then placements do happen in B.Tech, MBA, and all such type of courses. And one of the essential criteria is that the colleges train students into, say, uh, into pre-placement type of, or they prepare them well for getting a job, a placement type of thing. Usually you cover English, aptitude, and other things. Have you ever thought about this thing, that you spend efforts, you spend money onto that thing? How has that been, see, what is the efficacy of these classes? Is that something which is actually benefiting the students? Benefiting in the terms that, okay, I use the benefit in the terms of placement. Got my point? So my idea is clear, that students who were given this placement trainings. Okay, say not all colleges are receiving such placement training, but all colleges have got or there may be certain class of student, group of students coming from a certain geographical background, or say usually people train students for English. So having said all these things, so if you are training people for say English as a language, or interview based conversation, or something, speaking, whatever the case may be, have you ever tried to test it that how much students are actually benefited out of certain initiative? So if I try to look into that, certain students who received a training and some students who did not receive a training. And the ultimate idea I'm picking up, that how would I test that whether they were benefited or not, by looking into that uh, whether that thing that whether the students were placed. That's why singular criteria that I'm using it, that whether students were placed. Other factors, so-called factors, remaining constant. Okay. So other so-called factors remaining constant types. Okay, not trying to talk about say the content or this and that. You can raise several questions. I'm not trying to look into that. So what all was taught in these classes? Have you ever tried such type of research? If not, please try it. That may give you, if you're sitting on a management position or to the management, essentially it may give you a good insight that whether such students, or whether uh, it is good enough to put in so much effort, money, and everything that goes from the institution side and from the student side, whether it is it is beneficial. Actually, it's creating that benefit which is intended to be. So you use your your experimental design onto that idea, that if you can look into certain things, and if you can uh, get something out of it. So that is what I said, a pre and post type of a test. That before receiving the training, certain say you teach mathematics, for example. So you give them a so-called pre class sheet. Then after the class, you give them a post class sheet. Okay, then try and gauge the difference, that how much students have actually been benefited onto that thing. How much students, how many students, how how students have fared well types. So that is what would give you an idea or gauge that how much have they actually understood the concept. So that's how a pre-post type of a thing can always be uh, better when it comes to experimental design. The only idea is that you need to be looking it from an idea that it would be involving cost and time. Okay, so and you would, as I told, you have to assume certain factors remaining constant. Okay. Say, for example, if I'm an engineering graduate, you are only asking me about say, the English classes. Now, I may know a certain language. I may be proficient in certain language, but I am not, say, proficient in the computing, say, the coding part of it. Then why a company would hire me? I hope you are getting my point. So that's where a experimental design may face a limitation, that other factors remaining constant. So you are assuming this thing that my coding is good, and it's only the English language you are trying to test, which may not be the case. I may be not be proficient in a language, but I may be very proficient in coding. So the chances of me getting hired would be higher than someone who knows a better English but low in coding. So that's what I'm saying. You need to be very specific in the variables that you choose as far as your experimental design are concerned. Okay. It's always suggestive, okay, that we pick up a mixed design. When I say mixed design, or when I recommend a mixed design, try and use a combination uh, of a questionnaire with a qualitative, a quantitative with a qualitative type of design. Okay. See, if you go and talk to your respondents, whenever whatever the time permits to you, because this would have two benefits. One, you would understand that the data, is it, is my questionnaire being able to capture the data, what is actual, the actual data, is it able to capture the actual data? Point number two is that uh, for writing your inferences, for discussion, writing and other things, you would need those inputs. Okay. So you need to actually have a feel of your respondents regarding that subject. So create that feel regarding that subject, regarding that respondent. So that feel would be something that would be uh, very beneficial while you are writing, especially in terms of your PhD. This feel of things would be utmost important. Okay. These are some of the factors based on which you can choose your design. Obviously, it would depend on what is the type of topic, what are your research objectives, okay, how much time, cost, and other resources are available with you. Uh, See that if some other research, similar research design used in some previous research, or what is the advice of your people, and obviously as I told you that what is your research topic, that would largely decide upon what type of research design you should be looking at. I give you a broader idea that what is what and how we would connect on to them. Any questions as of now as far as the research design is concerned, or shall I move on to my last part of it? Any questions, anyone? Okay, great. Thank you very much. Thank you for your response. Now we move on to the next and last part of my listing. So I would take another 10-15 minutes of yours, and then I would open the platform for your question answers. So we understand this thing that first thing, what is a population? So anyone and in everyone who is eligible, say I take Navdeep's ma'am example to make you understand. She talked about payment gateways. Okay. Whom should I go and ask questions regarding payment gateways? If I want to ask any question, usage, perception, whatever, whichever, you know, payment gateway I prefer, whatever the case may be. Who can answer this question? Who can answer these questions for me? If I want to do a research, any type of research on payment gateway, a consumer-based research on payment gateway, who can answer these questions? It can be any question. Patel sir, it can be any question. Okay. Regarding security, regarding usage, regarding perception, availability, preference, which gateway you use. Any question if I want to ask, who can I ask any question regarding payment gateways? Consumer I am talking about.
So I have a question.
Yes, please, ma'am.
Like whether this payment mode
Yeah.
is means it is very popular nowadays that
Yeah.
through payments means fraud is going on, right?
Agreed.
Cyber fraud is going on. So whether
Mhm.
this payment mode or gateways are secure enough for us or not?
Ma'am, if you ask me technically, then answer would be no. Okay. Because anything that has to do with internet, okay, is not secured. Because
Yes.
any person sitting at any point of place, anything that is available on internet belongs to everyone. Because
Yes.
internet is everywhere. Okay.
Yes.
So coming back to what I was asking, that who can be, who can answer this question? Navdeep ma'am is here in the audience. Navdeep ma'am still continues to be a part of participants. Navdeep ma'am, are you there?
Sir, the customer who use the basically this online banking or online purchasing,
As simple as this. Now, who can that be, Vishal sir? Largely any consumer who has got a smartphone. Am I right?
Yes, yes, yes.
So that becomes my population. I repeat, anyone who is, who is eligible to answer a question becomes my population. Agreed? So
Agreed.
all people who have got an access to what Vishal sir said, right? All people who have got an access to say internet banking or are using any of the gateways for any purposes can be my respondent. Point number one. And then largely, if I want to describe, then everyone who has got say uh, a smartphone
Smart.
can be, a smartphone person can be my respondent. Now, this what is largely my population. Now, the problem is that if this is my population, then it becomes a very vague answer. Because then how many should I should go and talk to? That is that is the question. That how many should I go and talk to? Three things before while choosing any type of I would coming on to that how to pick up a sample. I would be talking that differently. Remember three ideas when to answer this first question. One, what is the sample design that you are choosing in? Okay, and when I say sample tool, let me give you an idea. So remember, I have given you three criteria. My initial idea is that what can be your population. Okay, that is what we are discussing. So I told you that anyone and everyone who fits into this criteria, who has got a smartphone, who uses certain type of a payment gateway, can be my population. Agreed? So now it become, I've opened this thing to it becomes crores and crores and crores of people. Agreed? Okay,
Agreed.
million
Yes, sir.
billions of people. Right? Now let's put a comma here and let's get on to the next thing. The first idea. Which sampling technique am I trying to use? Okay. So if if everyone, if say for example, I have got a list of respondents. Okay. I want to test that okay, how many of the college going students, which is the preferred mode of gateway in college going students. So basically, if I'm trying to get onto a college going student, then I can contact the college and get a list from there. So if I got a list, then the chances of getting onto a random sample becomes high. So for example, anyone, I open a question and any one of you can answer. Okay, like say this time Vishal sir and Sheetal ma'am have answered this question. Okay, so this is a simple that we have got around 45 participants, and anyone anyone can I'm not asking any particular person to answer. Anyone from the group can answer this question. So that is the simplest idea of simple random sample. You throw open a question in a class, anyone in a limited participants, anyone can answer it. That becomes a simple random sample. Stratified, I have already talked about it. That I'm using any stratified criteria. That I'm talking gender, I'm talking income group. So what is the criteria that okay in smartphones? Am I talking to a certain gender? Okay, then I'm trying to boil down from a smartphone to a next level that I'm talking about a stratified group. Now is that I have fixed any proportion that okay in certain proportion I would be talking, okay, that say this out of say I'm not still not got onto a number. Okay, please refrain myself from using a number. So say out of whatever sample size I have, 70% or 80% should be males. Okay. Or say 70% or more than 50% should be youth population. Now, what gives me this idea? The simplest idea is that I would come to this thing that your sample should be a true representative of population. Come back to this point. Okay, this is the second criteria. I repeat, my population should be a true my sample should be a true representative of population. What do I mean by that? you may be studying in different type of census based or demographic based studies, that we dwell in, as an Indian, we dwell in one of the youngest youngest country. We are the youngest country. By age, we are the youngest country. Okay, so that means at any given point of time, half of my population would be young. Agreed? Now, this should be the same thing that should be reflected in your sample also. If I'm drawing a sample on a larger basis, say I'm using age as one of the criteria. So obviously, the people who come with 90, say I'm using a age criteria of say 65 and above. Say I'm using an age bracket as 60 and above. Say for example, let's simplify it. 60 and above. So what do you expect? Say, out of 100 people, how many you expect to be 60 and above? Generally, I am asking. I'm not giving you any idea to you. Okay. Obviously, that should be the least ones. Okay. Due to many technological challenges, their smartphone density, and many other things put together. Because this should be aligned with my what is the so-called available data, the sunshine data which is available. Okay. So agreed, Patel sir, maybe 10%. Okay. So that is, I'm fixing that thing that okay, I'm fixing a certain proportion that say out of 100, 50, okay, would be my youth. Then this next category, then that's how I would be reducing with the age. I would be reducing that. So either I'm trying to draw a proportion or it can be disproportionate criteria. That means I'm not setting at around the time. So use disproportionate things if you're not working on a larger set of things. You pick up a sample on that thing. Okay, so you're not challenging any set notion. Or what you can do is that say I want to pick. Let me give you an example. Say, for example, in a systematic sampling, you have got 10,000 purchase order. You want to pick out, say, you want to study 50 samples out of the entire 10,000 things. Okay. Like, say, you do quality checks. So, you won't be studying the entire, every item may not be going through quality. So, randomly, you would be picking out. So, how many items should you pick? So, if you are going with a systematic sampling, then say, for first example, so it would be 200, say, in the given example that is shown on your screen. So then every 45th purchase would be like, so that is how you would be starting drawing out a sample out of this thing. The only idea is that if you're using a systematic sampling, the list which is available to you, it should not be arranged in a certain manner. Otherwise, it would be a faulty sample. That's it. Every 245th sample or every 45th sample behaves in a certain way. Okay. So that should not be the case. Otherwise, this won't serve your purpose. Or what I can do if I want to study something which is more area based. Okay. So if you are I'm choosing area as a distribution medium. So I'm doing a research on a company which has got, say, zonal office or regional office, something like that. And I'm trying to study different zones or different, area-wise inclusions. Then obviously, or certain, say a population which, say I'm trying to draw a population based on income. And you understand the city in which you live would have, the super rich living in a certain area or a certain colony, which are generally called as, say, Saket, or some other dwellings which are more of below poverty line area, something like that. So if you want to have a feel of the city, okay, then you need to have a cluster sample, because then you would be trying to draw people from different sectors of society, different income criteria, and this the type of a thing. So that is how probably a cluster would work better. So area-based sampling at any given point of time, if you need something which can be based, certain characteristics which change as per the area, then cluster sampling is the best method of it. Uh, but not always that you would be interested. You would be have an access to list or something like that. So you can look forward to non-random samples, which can be simply convenience based. I ask a question to whomsoever can answer me, whomsoever listens to me. I ask a question to him or her. Like say as teacher, this is a general perception held by students that first benchers, are the one who would be most question types. Okay, so backbenchers, have got a different perception altogether. That stereotyping is a different idea. So, that's a certain, this is a convenience type. Okay. So the access to teacher is more towards the first bencher. So usual perception is that the first benchers are generally crowded with people who are more sincere towards study. Okay. So that's where a convenience part comes in. Or say, for example, if you are say trying to buy an agricultural land, so you would be either contacting you would be getting then expert opinion or expert view of the people who understand agriculture better. Okay. The technicalities of agriculture, the soil texture, and things like better. So that's where judgmental sampling comes in. Or you have decided a quota, and you would take keeping things from like say I want say 100 from this, I want 5 from this class, 5 from other class. So I've decided a quota. So any as soon as my 5 things are done, I would leave that class. Okay, so it can be as simple as quotas. Snowball samples are very typical in nature and very useful when you are researching on certain subjects which are very which are spurious in nature. Like say for example, you are talking about drug consumption. You cannot go and find drug addict open in market. Something like people, you would find people smoking. No. So so you need to catch up one person who consumes drugs, then with his reference, that's it is called as a reference sample. So with his or her reference, you would get on to some other person. So that's how you would make on that. But I hope that this part, one question is clear to you, that which technique of sampling are you using? Okay. The next idea is that what is the no, uh, what is the sample that you have decided upon? I'm not talking about the size as of now. Again, the general idea is that the more the better types, the more the mirror types is a general idea in statistics, and that is what you call as now I come on to that thing, large numbers. Okay. So, for example, if you are using, so, see, that's, if you are using, say, if I say certain data is based upon, I was reviewing a paper of Philippines that used, talked about a certain industry type, say, for example, textile in Philippines, and that has a worker, the sample size of that was 160. So would you agree with a sample size of 160 that this truly represents the entire textile industry in Philippines?
No, sir.
Yeah, that would always be a question mark. That how can 160 workers you have drawn out of entire Philippines? And that is what is an important understanding for all of us. While trying to go with that thing, please give the reviewer or the reader an idea of the population that you are attempting. Okay, that out of say 100 textile factories, this many textile people were and this many textile companies were say contacted for any given reason, and that is how you derived at a sample. So I personally feel that whether you're writing a research paper, and especially with your thesis, please make a note that you try and describe the sample in the most in the in the best possible way, in the most elaborated way. Try and describe your sample characteristics, not only size and all those things, that this is how I derived that size. Try and describe the characteristics of the population first and then of the sample, so that you get a feel that as I told you now, that sample should be a true representative of the population, back at the population. So the larger the number that you have picked up, okay, the better the idea, your external validity would be strong. Okay. Now I come to the third and the last part of my this thing, that how should I determine the sample size? How should I understand one simple question, that how much is too much? How should I determine this idea that this sample size would be good enough to talk about? Okay, this is a general acceptable type of a thing. The simplest idea is that, as I said, if you're researching in some of a very nano type of a market, a smaller market, or if you're researching in a very niche market, go for a census. You have to go and meet everyone. Okay. Maybe plan it from a similar study. So you would have one defense ready with you. Okay. But again, please understand that a research paper can be, a justified thing in another research paper, but a research paper won't justify a thesis. Okay, please understand this. So these are some of the type of published table which are already available based on what type of precision that you are using. Generally, either we work with a 5%, generally, 5% level of precision is generally acceptable. Okay, or rather it is suggested. Okay, if not, if you feel that 10% would be a larger thing, then 5% is a generally acceptable type of interval. Okay, or maybe use a formula. So online you would find that online there are formulas which are present. Formulas, use the formula. Generally, the research that we generally do, we may not be knowing. Say, for example, we may not be knowing the standard deviation of the population. So choose a formula which may not ask you a standard deviation. If standard deviation is known to you, nothing good like that. But if it is not known, use a formula, put it in, certain things that they would ask you, that say, for example, if I'm carrying on a research in a certain city, then obviously I know that by census, what is the population of the city. So I would have that finite population. So feed in some 2 or 3 data, not beyond that. Take it, and they would give you a so-called acceptable sample size. Okay. So, and you can write in your, say, in your research or in your this thing, that this is the formula that was used, and this is what the result that was obtained. If you can go a plus on that number, it would always be, a great thing. As I always tell you, if you are in a confusion, ask more people. Okay. So you can say that, sir, that can create more confusion. Agreed. So ask that many people, that that the results start getting similar. You would start getting similar answers. Now that is what in statistical terms you call as inertia of large numbers. Okay, that if you extend the sample beyond a certain level, the answers would be similar in nature. Okay, so from there you can gauge that these are, since these are similar in nature, so hence, now is the time that I should stop here. Okay, so once you start getting, like say, many people do career counseling. Career counselor is similar, that they will be giving to you. So that means that's enough. So in practical life also, when you may not have, all type of this statistics, in that this is the sample that you should pick up in your practical life also, that this many numbers, if I ask this similar question to this many number of people, and now the answers are more or less started, drafted in a different language, but have been more or less similar, stop that. Okay. Now you have reached the inertia of large numbers. After a certain large number, the numbers, they don't make any difference. The averaging would remain the same. Hardly it would move unless until you add another big chunk. So that's, what is the type of, remember this thing, especially if you are doing your PhD. To all the PhD scholars, this is my last thing for you. Pick up a sample, which is justified. Remember, you would be throughout your life, getting a doctorate is one idea, but throughout your life you would be questioned, okay, on your how you bought this thing, how you obtained this number, questions relating to samples and sample sizes. So that's the reason I'm telling you, in your, write sample and sample characteristics, define them in a detailed possible manner, so that the questions that you face are the least. And once that is there, na, that is the tone is set. Now the reader would, would concentrate, or a viewer would concentrate on more on your conclusion and this thing, rather than putting a question mark there itself and sending the paper back for your review. Okay. So before that happens, set him a clear tone that, even if the sample, people would, generally tend to ask me that, sir, I am researching in, say, 1 lakh of the population. How much do you think, I can go along with that? My answer would be simple. Put that in your formula, you would get the answer that out of 1 lakh, how many people can you should go and ask the question to. So it's not only, remember one thing, research is not only about mathematics or statistics. Please understand this thing. Beyond all ideas of mathematics and statistics is a simple thing, that there is something called as common sense, and another thing known as logic. Please apply these two, you would end up doing a good research. Thank you very much from my side. I'm open to any type of questions. Should you have anything, or as sir has already told me that someone has written over there that okay, everything is clear. So if I take it as an answer, or should you have any more doubts, you can please ask.
So I have a doubt.
Yes,
Uh,
please continue.
Not a doubt, but just I want your suggestion.
You please go
See,
ahead.
I want to write a research paper on transgenders, and I
On,
want to do some case study on that, because
okay,
that community lives in my area only.
okay.
So it will be better. Means
Well,
we can do
well,
it.
see, it all depends that what is the research topic or research area. Which larger faculty do you come from, ma'am? Which larger subject do you come from?
English literature, sir.
English literature. Then what is that you would be, what is the research that you are likely to do with these transgenders?
See, I just want because see, if some questions are raising in my mind, that
Hmm.
why they are not the part of the mainstream.
Agreed. Ma'am, please don't mind me saying this. How
Mm.
does would it, or how would you justify this research if you say tomorrow you are interviewed in for a faculty position in English literature? How would this research contribute to your idea of of English literature?
Many writers has written about transgenders, like novel by Mahesh Dattani, and one novel by Mahesh Dattani and other writers also.
Agreed, agreed,
But
agreed. I hope
my
you got my initial idea of drawing a mental map, man.
yes, sir.
Okay, so what in that, what in transgender studies that you would actually try and look into. Say the gentleman's name that you are referring to, Mahesh Dattani Saab's novel on transgenders. Okay, so are you
Hello.
willing to write another novel,
So
or
your
are
voice is cutting.
am I audible now? Am I audible now?
Yes, yes, yes,
So my
yes.
point is that, ma'am, that if if you are trying to, are you trying to write another novel? Point number one. Are you trying to write a general article as to what is that what earlier authors have written, and from where the authors have left, and you want to carry that work further?
Yes, see, recently we have learned that many transgender got or come into bureaucracy also, but they
Mm-hmm.
have done a lots of struggle, and
Absolutely
only by the support of their family they would able to do the things,
agreed. Agreed, ma'am.
right? So, see, transgender means they are a human being, right?
Absolutely, ma'am.
I'm treating means all we are all treating them human being, but why they can't do the normal jobs, or they are like a manpower, right? So in
Agreed.
the development of India, why they are not contributing?
Absolutely. Now, my point is that, ma'am, that again. my simplest answer to you is that please try and draw a mental map of your research.
Okay.
You get many answers by yourself. That
Yes.
what exactly I am looking forward to when I am trying to talk about transgenders and inclusivity, their role in economic growth. What is that I'm exactly trying to figure out? Point number one. Point
Hmm.
number two, always try and look into that how it would further my knowledge into the subject area that I would be, that I largely belong to. The
Hmm.
faculty, the subject knowledge. See, you can research on anything,
Hmm.
but the question always remains that how is that research, answer two questions. One, how is that research furthering my knowledge into a certain field? See,
Hmm.
tomorrow, again, as I asked you a question, that tomorrow if I'm interviewed and somebody questions me that why do you did a research on transgenders?
Hmm.
Okay. So
Hmm.
I should be able to understand that as in coming from an English literature background, doing a research in transgenders, how is these are two linked? That is my
Hmm.
question one.
Okay.
Question number two, that how much is this adding for the existing pool of knowledge? As I told
Hmm.
you, that
Hmm.
every research leaves you with some person made that comment during my last session also,
Hmm.
that every research will leave you with certain question on what you call as the future scope for research.
Yes. Yes.
And
Definitely.
picked up from the future scope of research and now you are continuing the next, you are actually adding something to the existing pool of knowledge.
Hmm.
Okay. So
Hmm.
if these two questions are answered positive, your answer to these two questions largely, go ahead and research it. Then try and draw a mental map,
Okay. Okay, sir.
irrespective of your topic map. If these two
Hmm.
questions are answered for you,
Hmm.
then you can draw a mental map and now start with your research. That is what in general I would suggest you.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you very much. Anyone further who has got any question? Okay, fair enough. Then thank you very much. It was, great talking to you all. Um, so, thanks for your time, especially during evenings, and especially all the females who were listening to me, because I understand that you would have a homely course also to be done after this thing. So, and to everyone in general, I appreciate every one of you that people you may be working for the entire day, and now you are finding time to say to listen to me what I have to talk about research and things like that. That means you people are genuinely interested in your say you people are genuinely interested in your development. So once again, I thank every one of you for being such a good participant and being participative also. Um, and special thanks to my RFI family, Ajay Jain sir and Saurabh Jain sir, and obviously Yogesh ji, who has been helping in the entire technical part. Okay, so thank you everyone. Thank you very much, and have a good night.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you, ma'am.